Welcome to the latest installment of the making of Gosse. In this video, we're going to look at some of the mixing behind Gosse. So this file, this was the very final version of Gosse that was eventually sent to mastering. Using Reason as the DAW, the same core instruments from beginning to end of this 13-minute piece. There's a lot of extra lanes for automation of width, of level, of effects. On the drum bus, there's a lot of different samples and sounds that have been added for layers of drums with processing in between to make them feel cohesive. There's also bird samples from outside my house here in Corgao, Goa, that I recorded and weaved into the backdrop of the track. Here in Reason, the rack view, looking at all the instruments, which are waveforms by now, and the effects on each. You can see there's a lot of FabFilter, there's a lot of Soundtoys, I would say, and with Trackspacer, I would say those are my three biggest suite of plugins. And I use a lot of the internal Reason effects as well. The channel EQ, the utilities to be able to split the drum signal, the kick signal, and use it in multiple places. Here, the Trackspacer is taking the toms and cutting that space from the drum so it's not overwhelming in those frequency ranges. And then the separate EQing on pretty much every channel. Some channels needed more effort than others. This is something I've done a couple of times, but I put a Reason pulverizer on the drum bus and just ever so slightly squashed it and let a little bit go through. EQ, I typically take out a lot of the lows if it needs it. I use this MV meter 2 for gain staging earlier in the mixing process. I leave it on the mix bus. I create an extra mix channel and then I put this MV meter 2 on, but I leave it off after the gain staging is done. It's always good that I can go back and check it. The Reason SSL mixer, a Colossus, this is why I like Reason the most. It might look intimidating, but there's a lot to it. You go channel by channel. I love the visual aspect. It looks like a real mixer. There's buttons we can automate. Well, we'll come back to the master bus programming in a moment. Effects. There's 4 channels. There's a room reverb, which I used a bright hall, like a concert hall. Most of the tracks have a little bit of that. There's echo or delay that's sometimes automated to come on. And I've got more of a spacey sort of reverb ambient sound that I roll the lows off and roll the extreme highs off. That's also automated. I keep checking to make sure if I've got a high pass filter on, it doesn't seem like I do. And then once in a while I use this effects track called Focus, which just sometimes if something needs to punch through a little more, the focus channel will come on. But in general, the effects were pretty built in from the beginning with the instruments. Now on the master bus, you can see I've rolled off everything at 22 with a slight bump, and then I cut off the sides higher up. Prism I use to see the balance of the track. Is it filling up all the frequencies? I compare with my references. I can also see here quite easily if the bass is very wobbly or the sub bass is very wobbly. And then when I'm in the pre-master, I use the Ulean loudless meter because once in a while spikes and peaks come through that disrupt an otherwise very nice and neat mix, so I try to find those exact spots and then in the timeline do what I need to do to get rid of those sharp jumps in volume. Prism is a very handy tool, and I use a FabFilter Pro MB. This is just to contain the sub bass a little bit. Now, and a lot of these changes I make when I'm setting it to mastering, especially when I'm using Lander, I upload, I listen to the master, and then I make slight little tweaks on sort of this final mix. And they're all sort of reactionary moves done by ear. We've got side chain compression coming on, generally from the kick channel, and we'll see how this looks when the kick starts. You see, I put the bass up quite a bit in the EQ across the channels. For the drums, I had 3 different EQs, and because there's so many different parts of the song, and so some need a different EQ than others. Here you can see the side chaining of the kick channel coming through and ducking the bass as necessary. A little, it's quite subtle. And then back to the master bus. Very smooth EQ. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed.